What's up all my desies? Welcome to Talkin' Chalk and Chai today. So today I'm going to be talking about rebellious things I've done growing up that typically most people are like, oh, you've done that? Like, I've done so much worse, you know? But I feel like for us desies, we kind of get it, and it's like, for you guys, maybe you're like, oh my god, Halima, you did that? That's crazy. Especially people who maybe knew me in high school and growing up. Like, I was kind of a lame-o and a nerd-ish. Okay, so growing up in high school, me and my group of friends, I think we had about like 6 friends, and we were just like, so our group of friends was like, we were just like, I think we were like the outliers. We just kind of did our own thing. We were really weird. We were super diverse. The high school I went to was really diverse, and that's why I was not prepared for the rest of the world at all. Going to college, I was not prepared because, honestly, it doesn't matter what college I would have gone to. I just would not have ever been as prepared. And this was when I first started hanging out with my group of 6 friends who were just a crazy mess. And like, it transitioned with the friends. Like, some of the friends in the group kind of left and then others came in, but we had a consistent number of a similar group of friends. So to my parents, they were just bad news. My parents were not, they were like, why can't you just find a good Muslim girl to be friends with? The problem is, you don't choose your friends, they kind of just choose you. You just end up in the same group with them, and things just kind of work out. In middle school, I think the first rebellious thing that kind of happened is that I got a detention, which was huge for my parents. It was practically the end of the world. Like, my older sister would never have done something like that. You know, like, no one in our household has ever gotten a detention, and there's me who's gotten a detention, and in middle school too. And it was for the dumbest reason. We were late to a class and there was a substitute, and the substitute wasn't about to play around, you know? So when we did finally get into the class, it was kind of our fault. We were just like, either way, I got a detention. We are not like the wisest of kids. So trouble kind of called to us. But then also in high school, I guess the most rebellious thing I've done. So we took, me and my 2 friends, we took athletic weight training, which, like, God knows why we took athletic weight training. I was not in any sports. I wasn't allowed to be in sports because it was just school and back until like senior year. I think we just wanted a class together, and that was the most convenient thing. And every time during class, this was the dumbest thing because obviously the teacher knew, he just didn't care. So it got to a point where we would be lifting weights with all these super athletic people. We'd be lifting weights. We have no idea what we're doing, and we would just be screwing around, having a good time. And there were 3 of us, super scrawny, or never like tried building any muscle mass or anything. And I remember one of my friends, she was lifting in the squat position, but not really. She was like lifting the bar like this, and we forgot to spot her. The weight fell on her and she fell over. And the coach was just kind of like, I mean, he was really angry in the moment, but afterwards he's just like, I don't expect anything from these girls. I do not expect anything. And he didn't, because every time afterwards we would kind of leave in the middle of class acting like maybe he didn't see us, even though we were like 3 of the only girls in the class. At least once a week we would leave the class right after the first 10 minutes, and we'd go to Taco Bell, eat a bunch of burritos, come back, and then get back into class. So I think that's pretty rebellious on my end. I definitely wouldn't have ever told my parents. In fact, it was so funny, like every time I went off campus, which wasn't a lot, actually was the type of kid who feared her parents a lot. And I always believed in being honest with them. So this is why every time I did do something crazy, my mom would always know. So the few times I did go off campus, I would have this fear that my dad was tracking my phone, because that's how he would like threaten us. He'd be like, if you girls do this, I will know. And so he would tell us that he was tracking our phone. So what I would do is sometimes when I would go off campus, I would leave my phone in my locker. So this one time I forgot to leave my phone in my locker, and while we were driving off campus, I realized, guys, I still have my phone. So way back then, when I got my first phone senior year, and this is probably why I wasn't used to the phone and I didn't remember every time I left it in my locker, is because I didn't have a phone. And then senior year, at the end of senior year, I get a phone. Okay, so I get this flip phone. It's called the Pebble. I'll put a little picture up here. It's called a pebble. It's like, looks like a pebble. So I was driving off campus. My friends are like, Halima, there's only 30 minutes for lunch. There's no way we're turning around so you can put your phone in your locker. So what I did at that moment, I was like, okay, pull over here. So we pull over, there's a bush. I put my pebble phone in the bush and we go off campus. We came back and the phone was still there because it looks like a pebble, and also like, who wants a flip phone that day and age? So I wasn't worried. I was like, either way, like, who cares? It's a pebble. I'd say the most rebellious thing I've probably done in high school. Oh, okay, so this is a funny story. So I really wanted to go to prom senior year because all my friends, my group of my posse, they were all going to prom, and I was like, oh, I want to go to prom so badly. And for me to even ask my parents was huge. They were so appalled by the fact that I even asked them. My dad's like,
no one in our household has ever even thought about something like that.
And it was just a huge dramatic moment. It was pretty big in the moment, but I feel like as time progresses, obviously I feel comfortable talking about this because I feel like as time progresses, my dad only expects less and less of what we do in our lives, which is kind of funny, but also pretty great because it's established a really good relationship with both my parents, because they're becoming more open-minded, and this comes in part of like this huge generational change they have. You know, growing up they weren't even allowed to like move left or right, but then also think about their family dynamic. They had about like 6 to 8 brothers and sisters. Who needs friends? Who needs a life outside of family when you got like 6 to 8 brothers and sisters? Then you have 10 to 15 cousins living right and left next to you. So anyways, I really want to go to prom, and my parents were like, nope, not happening. And so I talked to my friends about it, and growing up I was definitely the type of person who fell into peer pressure a lot. I mean, there were some things that was like a very clear-cut no, I'm not doing, but there were other things that were just kind of like I was on the fence about, and I was like, you know what, I don't really know, I just need a little more persuasion. It's kind of like being on a diet, you know, a diet, but not really. It's like my version of a diet. And I'm like, hey, I'm going on a diet. Then my friend's like, hey, you want to go get pizza? I'm like, okay, sure, I want to go get pizza. Because deep down I'm like, I still want to do it. So all it took was one conversation with my friends, and they're like, Halima, come on, you gotta go to prom. I was like, okay, yeah, I gotta go to prom. But turns out prom was way too early. We even considered giving my parents sleeping, like some sort of sleeping thing in their chai, just so I could go to prom. I would never do that, Daddy. Me going to prom was not an option. But our after prom was still a thing, and after prom for our high school was so much better than prom. It was where all the fun was at. We would have jumping castles, we would have all these games, people would come in their sweats, so I wouldn't have to worry about getting a dress or worry about any of this other stuff, and that would work out perfectly. Like, I would get to have all the fun of prom without all the formalities of prom. I'm gonna go to after prom. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. They just planned on picking me up in the park next to my house in the backyard. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna plan this great. I'm sleeping in the basement, like my room was in the basement at the time. So I was like, I'm just gonna crawl out from that little under thing and run out through the backyard, run to the park, get in their car, hop out, go out, come back, jump over the fence, come into my backyard, go back in the thing, and I'm back in my room and no one ever knows. Turns out the thing leading out from my basement was locked, so I had to figure out a way to leave the house without my parents noticing, and their room was right on top of my basement door. So I'm leaving. I decided to just risk it all. Like, who cares? If I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. You don't really think about consequences at that age. If you did, you wouldn't do half the crap you did. And I think, or I guess I did think about consequences, but for things that actually mattered. Like, what does it matter in the long run if I went to after prom or not? In fact, if I went to after prom and got away with it, I'd be going back with a bunch of memories. And now I have a bunch of memories because I did go to after prom. So anyways, I ended up walking up the stairs and I was leaving the front door. So I'm leaving the house, shoes off, shoes in my arm, creeping. I'm creeping to the front door. Front door, I gotta risk it all, go big or go home. So, get to the front door, turning the doorknob. Cat starts meowing. Hi, cat. Cat starts meowing. He thinks I'm here to feed him. I'm like, cat, back off. I ain't trying to feed you. I'm just trying to get out of here without anyone noticing. So, cat starts meowing. Cat starts going crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, my parents know, The door starts squealing. I'm like, oh my gosh. What was I thinking? I'm gonna die tonight. And then something overcame me. If my parents heard me, I'd be screwed. But something overcame me. I was like, screw it. Pull the door completely open, slam the door shut, shoes in hand, run to the park, get in the car, no one noticed. Getting home was a little scary. I called my sister twice. I was like, can you make sure the coast is clear? She's like, no, I'm not doing anything for you. I was like, okay, cool, nice to know where we're standing. Get inside the house, safe, go into the basement, go to bed. That's it, end of story. And it was a lot of fun. Was it worth it? Heck yeah, it was worth it. I was like 17, who cares? It could have been the end of my life, but now I can tell this story and it's not the end of my life. I knew this day would come. But anyways, that's it for this show of Talkin' Chalk and Chat. I will catch you guys on the flippity flip.